Let's move on to promises and async and await. Now, when we talk about promises, what exactly do we mean? Again, I said three things are very much important if you are going to be able to write asynchronous programs. You need to understand these three things very well. First is callback, second is promises, while the third is what async and await. Now, we've talked about callback. Let's talk about promises. What is promises? Now, I'm going to just define one. I'm going to define one. Just use one funny definition here. Then I'm going to go ahead and explain to you what it means. Now, promises are objects that represent the eventual completion or failure of an asynchronous operation and its resulting value. Now, leave that big English. Let me explain something. Let me say this in a much more simpler way. So when I say promises, I'm saying, oh, I'm giving you something right now. Let me hold it. Now, if I give you, for instance, let's say I give you 2,000 naira. Please help me keep this 2K. I want to survive on it later. Now, three things are possible. You have three possible things. The first is that, oh, I will not need the 2K now until later. The second one is now, when I now need the 2K, you spend it. Or you actually give it back to me. Now, those three things are known as what? Pending. I don't need it yet. So that 2K is still pending right now. So I do not need it yet. Second one that is going to pay me is that you spend it. That's failure. So I don't have anything to eat. Do you get now? That's failure. Then the third one is what? Oh, you successfully kept this 2K for me and gave it to me. That's what? Success. Now, those three things are very much important in promises. Now, promises is saying that, oh, I'm keeping this thing with you, and I want you to what? Give me like a value later. Now, two values are very important: success and failure of that particular value. So three things are important in every promise. So the first again is what? Pending, which most of the times you will always have. So pending will always be the initial stage. That stage whereby a particular program is not completed. So you will always have a pending. So that's what the asynchronous program is still in progress and has not yet been completed yet. The second is your what? Success or fulfilled. So we have success. Let's just use success. That means the operation has what? Completed successfully and has produced a result. Then the third is what? Failure. So now this failure means that what? What does this failure mean? It means the asynchronous operation has failed and has also produced an error or a result. Now, these three things are basically what makes up your promises. Pending, I don't need my 2K yet. Success, oh, give me my money. Failure, give me my money. Those three things are very much important. So pending, success, and what? Failure. Now, that is one thing you need to understand about promises. Promises are very much important in that regard. Now, let's have an example. Let us this thing I just said now, let us put it into practice. You know, this 2K, 3K thing, put it into practice and try to create something out of it. So how do you use your promise? Again, you have to what? Understand two major things: success and what? Failure. Meaning, oh, you have to create a particular code or operation when that thing eventually gives you success, or create another operation when that thing eventually gives you what? A failure. Do you get now? Those two things are very much important. So how do we do this? Now I can go ahead and say, okay, let's create a promise. I can say, let's create a function. Now this function is going to say, oh, I want to give this person 2,000 naira. You understand? Or let's say, let me give this person 2,000 naira. So we can say, I think I used it in our last class. I don't have any other thing in mind. But let's say const. Okay, good. That's even giving me the distance. Give 2K. Let's say it's give 2K. Now, how do you create your promise? You have to use new keyword, then what? Promise. This is how you create your promise. Then your promise takes in two parameters, because the promise is also a function. Takes in two parameters: success, which or resolve, and what? Failure. These two things are very much important. Then you go to your arrow function. See, I'm using arrow functions now so that you understand how to use arrow function. Now, we're going to use a particular method, which is what? The prompt that we've been using before. So we're going to create a prompt that takes in a user what's name details input that says, oh, let money equals to what? Prompt, do you have what? 2,000 naira. Now, if that particular user has if he has 2,000 naira, what do you want? You want to create a condition that says, oh, if that particular user has 2,000 naira, then there has to be like a success message. Else, if that particular user does not have 2,000 naira, then give them a failure. Do you get it now? So how are we going to do it? I cannot say if money, then equals yes. You know, this is small letter y. So I also want to do it for the capital letter also. Or, please do not, I hope you remember this. Hope you remember it. I will sure you remember it. Okay, good. So now, or if that thing is what capital letter, what do you want? You want it to what success, right? That's the success that is here. Now, what's the success? Console.log, yes, take this 2K. So that's what the first stage. Second stage is that else, if that money is no, if you do not have 2K, what do you want? Else, if money equals what? No, what exactly do we want? We want it to what? Have failure, which is what console.log, no, I do not have 2K. Do you get it now? So we can go ahead now and write our so we can have gift. Okay, so if you check it out now, what exactly are we going to have? So if I say yes, so yes, take this 2K, and I refresh and I say no, what do I have? Oh, that's a mistake. No. No. Ah. Oh, it's working. I thought I was looking at this place. No, I do not have it. I don't have 2K. So now that is basically one thing about your promises. Now, if you check it out, it took two parameters. First is what? Success. Other one is what? Failure. Then, for your success, you have it is resolved here. In case that particular thing is false, what does it give to you? Failure. But what I want you to know is that at the same time, it's running these two processes. At the same time, it's running these two processes. And we only give you an output depending on what the user says. Do you understand now? It is not waiting for one to work before the other works. At the same time, it is giving you success or it's giving you failure. It's the same, it's not exactly the same thing with if and else statement. Now, your if and else statement, yes, you are using if and else statement. Now, let me explain how programming works. Now, this is how it works. You have if and else statements, you have promises, you have this, you have that. Promises is majorly meant for asynchronous processes, right? But you cannot also use promises. You can also use if and else statements to get how do I put this? To get your asynchronous processes through promises. I don't want to confuse rather. So what am I saying? I want a particular user to log in on my page now. But for me to be able to do that, I need to get in their details. Then after getting their details, check my database to see if their details is there or not. Those are many tasks, 2 tasks. So what am I going to use to get it? So I'm going to use an if and else statement, right? I'm going to say if their credentials are in my database, log them in. If they are not in my database, tell them to write the correct thing. Now I'm using if and else statement to get an authentication process. You understand what I'm trying to tell you now? So the promises there, or whatever asynchronous process there is what? Trying to know if they actually exist. But I'm using if and else statement to check. But first of all, I cannot do that without actually wrapping up that if and else statement in an asynchronous process. That is why I'm teaching promises. Do you get it now? So yes, if and else statement will always be useful in cases like this, but you also need to understand how to use asynchronous processes to check all of these things. I hope I've been able to explain it now. Yes, so that's what if and else statement is. So now, yes, as you can see, we have what the success and failure of this example. I'm trying to see if we have another example here. Okay, I think I wrote this. Good. Now, let us go into something much more complex. So we'll talk about promises. But I want everybody to understand this. So don't worry, it's not going to be. Yes, because it's a promise. So I don't necessarily have to like okay. So if you check it out, now it's going to tell you, oh, if I say no, so it's going to tell you give 2K is not a function, it's a promise. Do you understand? So normally your function is const 2k equals to parameter, but this is not a function. This is a what? A promise function. So look at it. Your normal function will be const give 2k equals to, they're gonna have this. Now this is a function. Do you understand? But this one add what? New promise, which is your what? Your promise. And then it also has another thing wrapped inside of it. So as you can see, substance and period. So this is not exactly a function. It is a promise, but the promise has a function. You get it now? That's basically what it is. So have I been able to explain it? So start joining. I know, yeah. Okay, so that's basically one thing about your functions. Now I'm going to explain with another example so everybody can understand this again. Now, what I'm going to explain, this particular one is going to tell us if our data has been fetched in just 3 seconds. That's 3,000 milliseconds. Now, what is it going to do? It's also going to be an asynchronous function that waits for a particular time for it to what? To execute independent of what other programs. Do you get it now? So let us go ahead and try it out. So I'm going to comment this one and I'm going to try it. So function is going to be what? So we're going to have const fetch data. Then we're going to have a promise. Now this promise is going to take in 2 parameters. First is going to be what? Success. Then the second is going to be what? Failure. New promise. It has to be there. If you want to define your promise, you have to have this new promise keyword. Is it clear? So now, what are we now going to do? We want to what? Get a particular. Let me do it in another way. Sorry. So I'm going to say const fetch data. So we're going to make it a function. Then inside of it, we're going to return a promise. So we're going to get a success and failure message from that particular promise. Yeah, good. I think this works well. Yeah, this works better. Okay, please let's try and join online so that we'll be able to like get what we're doing here. All right. So who's not in yet? Everybody's in. Okay, so which okay. Are we now? Mr. Sir, please confirm if you can see my screen. Okay, great. Is it working? I just turned off my laptop. Okay, turn it off. Why? Okay. All right, so let's continue now. Um, so what we've been able to do right now is that we've been able to create a particular promise that has two messages. The first message says what? Your success message. Then we're also going to have what? A failure. But now, in this case, right, we're just going to go ahead and what? Declare a particular success message. In case data is fetched successfully, then we're going to have a what? A success message, right? And I can go ahead and say, so you can actually check on a laptop in case both of minutes like. So now, first of all, I'm going to declare my success. I'm going to say success, which is going to be what? Data fetched successfully, right? So that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen in this particular promise, just to show that, oh, this particular data has been fetched successfully, right? Then, but that's not exactly what I want to do. What I want to do is that after 3 seconds, right? That is when I want this message to show. Now, how am I going to do that? I'm going to wrap it up in what? In a set timeout function, right? And I'm going to say, oh, success should now be what? Fetched successfully. I think there's a problem with my set timeout. Okay, good. All right, good. So I've been able to look at it now. So am I going to what? Success should now say what? The data has been what? Fetched successfully. Now, this happens after how many seconds? 3,000 seconds. But this is not going to work. Because first of all, you need to know that what we did is that we wrapped up our promise in a function, right? So since we wrapped it up in a function, we also need to call out this particular function for it to work. Now that's going to make me introduce you to two major keywords. Now we have the .then keyword, right? And then we also have the what? .catch. Now, probably maybe in today's class, I'm going to explain two things: error handling in JavaScript. You need to understand what error handling means in JavaScript. But for now, I'm going to explain .then and .catch for you. When you talk about .then is basically telling you that, oh, if you've probably done something like this, then something has to happen. So see .then as like a, I don't want to say repercussion. Let's say the result of something, right? Or what is expected to happen if something happens. Do you get it now? So, for instance, if you turn on the switch in this TV, then the screen comes on. That's what your .then is saying. Do you get it now? Now, you've said that, okay, in this particular function now, you have a promise that says success. But how will this success get called out? How exactly will you get the information from this data being fetched successfully? What you have to do is to what? First of all, call out your function the normal way so that it definitely works. Your function works. Then give it a particular message that makes it happen. So I can go ahead and say, oh, fetch data. Then, as you can see, I can now have a message that gets linked to the success or the failure message, right? Then I can say console.log. You're gonna have what's the message. So now, what we've just done here is that what we've said, oh, return success, which is a parameter in this place. Then that particular success message that you have here is now tied to this parameter that you have in this .then. Do you get it now? So in case that particular message works, then you want this to happen. Else you want something else to happen. Do you get it now? Now that's basically what your .then is saying. So I'm going to explain this again so that everybody understands it, so that we do not get this complicated. Start again from the beginning. Again, you want to create a particular promise, right? That has a success and a failure message. Now, success message says, oh, you successfully what? You successfully fetched a particular data. Failure message will say, oh, you've successfully failed at fetching this particular data. Do you get it now? So how do we do it? First of all, you create a function of your fetch data. So I'm going to say const, right? Fetch data, right? So again, we're going to create a function, right? Now the function is going to carry a promise. I'm going to return a promise that has what? Both success and failure. Do you get it now? Now, that is basically what I'm trying to tell you. Like, we're going to have a function that has both success and failure. Cover it. Oh, sorry. I think this should work. I was wrong. Okay, let's create a promise. Now, the promise takes in what? Success and also failure. And then we're not going to what? Have a particular argument inside of it. Now, that argument is going to carry what? A success message that says you successfully what? Fetch this data. But we don't want that success to pop out until after how many seconds? 3 seconds, right? So for us to do that, we use our set timeout function, right? And then we're going to say 3,000 milliseconds. And then we're not going to go ahead and what? Pop this particular message. So it says success, data is fetched successfully. Now, yes, you've created this promise. You've created it. You have your success message. But of course, it is inside of a function. And that function will not work until that function will never work until you call out the function. You understand? So, okay. All right. So you can go ahead and just like I say, fetch data and then I call out my function like that. So if you check it out now, you're going to say, okay, you probably, as you can see, nothing is showing, but you've called out your function. Do you get it? Now, but for what you want exactly to work, what do you have to do? You have to what? Make sure that there is a message that actually shows what you exactly want to get or shows the error. Again, this particular promise is just a return value inside of this fetch function. What's the name? Function. Fetch data function. Do you get it now? So now, what you need is that you need two major values. The first is what your dot then. Dot then is what happens when a particular function is set, or what happens when something is done, or when something is true. Do you get it now? That's what your dot then. Then your dot catch helps you catch the error in case there is an error with your syntax or there's an error fetching the data. You understand now? That's what your dot catch is. Your dot catch basically helps you catches error. So you can say your error. Then dot then is now what? Like your success. You understand now? So in case this particular thing is successful, then you want to have what? Your dot then. So you can now say your then. Now, the normal way you were having your callback, that you've set something, a particular function, and then you now what? Easily call it back. It's the same thing that you do with your dot then here. So now, since you have your success here, right? Your success and your timeout, your set timeout function has to what? Be called out in this place. So what you can do right here is now you can what? Tie this your dot then to another function here or parameter. So I can call it message, right? Or you can call it data. I can call it anything that I want. I can say data. Do you get? So just a moment. So I can say, let's say data, right? Then we can have our arrow function and we can say, oh, since we are fetching data, we can just say console.log data. Now, if you check it out now, you're going to have your data fetched. Why? Because your data right now is exactly what your set timeout function is going to give to you. So if you check it out now, I'm going to have what? Data. After 3 seconds, you're going to have data fetched successfully. You understand now? Now, that is what your promise is saying. So you have your success, you have your failure. If everything goes well, this particular one gets printed out. But in case everything doesn't go well, we're going to have what? Dot catch. And your dot catch is going to catch an error for you, right? So you're going to get your error, and then you're going to say console.log error in case there's an error fetching it. Now that's basically what your dot catch is. So do we all understand promises? Okay, now let's put it like this. In our first example right here, right, we said, just to answer your question, in our first example, right, we said success, we said failure, we wrote it out. Now, in some cases, you won't exactly need to write the failure yourself. You understand? All you have to do is what? Write your success message, right? connect it to a callback. You understand? Because that's exactly what we did here. So we wrote our success message in this place, which is here. Then in this particular fetch data in the dots, then we connected it to a callback, which is what data, right? So what exactly is being fetched now? What you see here now is not going to be what? Data. So if I save it up now, you're not going to see what? Oh, data fetch successfully. That's a callback. So you can see that callbacks actually works everywhere. Now, your dot catch is now saying, oh, in case this success message does not work, then print out the responsible error. Now, the thing about your program is that you have a lot of errors. You have runtime error, you have syntax error, you have logical error, you have, I'm trying to remember some of these things. So you have a lot of errors. Do you get it now? Now, there's some particular error that they are, if you do not know the root cause, you won't be able to solve their bug. Now, this dot catch will help you catch that particular error, make you know exactly the issue that you have, so you can easily solve it. So that instead of trying to like brainstorm, think about what's going on exactly, the dot catch in your failure automatically helps you get it. You understand? That's what your dot catch is trying to tell you. In case this thing does not work, dot catch helps you automatically get your errors for you. Do you get it now? Now, that's why I'm saying this is not the best way to handle your errors. There's something we call try and catch block, which we talk about. Now, that's better way in which you handle your errors, but we will not use it in promises. We will use it in async and await. Now, the use of async and await. Now, I told you have three important things in asynchronism. The first is what callback. Second is promises. Then we have async and await. Async and await majorly helps you eliminate dot then and dot catch, because dot then and dot catch to me is too bulky. I feel like there is no reason exactly why you have to be using dot then and dot catch every single time. It's just going to make everything messy, number one. Then number two, it's not really going to make it clean. Do you get it now? Now, that is why async and await was introduced. Async and await helps you to reduce the use of dot then and dot catch. And then instead of using dot then and dot catch, you can just wrap your function in a try and catch block. So the try is going to try whatever it is you put. Then the catch is going to catch the error in case there is a problem. I'm going to come there, we'll get there. So, but for now, I need you to understand your dot then is like saying, oh, this is what happens when this is true. Your dot catch is saying, okay, this is what happens when there is an error. Is it clear? Actually, there's no error we can make it. Like, there's some programs that are the kind of error that we can make right here. If I remove this success right now, then there's going to be an error. And the error is that nothing is going to show. Do you get it now? But I'm trying to see if there's a way we can. There's nothing that's going to show yet also. It's not really going to show anything. I'm trying to see if we can have an error. Okay, I think we can have one error. Let me remove this success. Then this is going to be no error. So as you can see, what's the unexpected online 89? Trying to give you the particular error that we have. Okay, there's a problem now. It's not going to show anything. Okay, good. So now it's saying success is not defined. So it's trying to tell you that, okay, you have failure, but there's no success. As you can see, this is a much more defined error. Do you get it now? But this is not exactly what the catch block does for you. This is not exactly, but at least you have a well-defined error. All right, but for now, I'm going to explain async and await so that everybody understands the difference between promises and async and await. Now, your async and await is also promise. It's also a promise. Let me explain it. It's also a promise because it tells you, okay, it's going to do something and then it does it, or it doesn't do it. That's error and success. Now, but your async and await is an upgraded form of promises in the sense that it tries to help you eliminate dot then and dot catch almost, let's say 90%, not 100%. But it almost helps you eliminate the use of what? Dot then and dot catch. Please, I hope everybody is getting this. Those online, is everybody getting it? Mr. Shego and Mr. Pius. I don't just want to keep talking and nobody's getting. This is where we did this in our last class. So we did this in 2 classes. So if nobody gets it, then that means something is wrong. I need everybody to get it. It's important. So now we're going to talk about async and await now, and I'm going to explain to you what exactly async and await is using this same example that we have here. Now, when we talk about async and await, what exactly do we mean? So I'm going to async and await. Now, async and await is now async and await is a syntax built on top of promises. As you can see, so what I was saying. Async and await is also promises, but a much more different way of writing promises. Now, do you need your channel now? Don't worry. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so now I want to talk about async and await. What exactly do we mean? We are saying now we're talking about a syntax that is built on top of promises that allows for what? Writing asynchronous code in a more synchronous and readable manner. Yes. So now let me explain what it is. Sometimes, right, you want a particular code to behave, you want a particular asynchronous code to behave in a synchronous way. So what exactly am I saying? I'm trying to think of something. So very good. Someone is trying to log in. I put in my password. What happens? Once I put in my password, I click on enter. But immediately I click on enter, what happened? It had to check this thing first. What's the name? The database to see if my credentials are actually there or not. Do you understand now? Now, I want you to imagine what's going on. Immediately I click submit, it is rolling. That task is actually working, right? It is independent of the other task. It is rolling. And at the same time, that other one is also what? In the database, trying to check if something is going on or not. Do you get it now? But what you need to know is that as that particular submit button is rolling, it is trying to wait for you to fetch the data, first of all, bring it back to your code, and then automatically authenticate the person. So technically, an asynchronous function is working underneath. But because of async and await, it is kind of making it behave in a synchronous way to wait for that data to be fetched. So, do you understand what is happening now? Let me explain it again. I will use paint this time around so that even though I don't know how to paint anything, but I'll still try and explain it. So now this is what I'm trying to say. So you have so this is your user. No, let's say this is your client, right? This is like your browser, or let's say the website. Now, this is the server. But that's the server. Do you get it? Now, in this place, now the client now probably or the user now goes ahead to write in their username or password or whatever. Now, what happens is that after writing it, there's a request sent to the server to check if that particular credential that was written is real or not. Now, this process of checking is running on its own separately. The process whereby they click send here is also running what? Independently. So that whenever it's now, it cannot go ahead and merge it together and authenticate the user. But what you need to know that is that as this one is running, technically it is waiting for this particular data to be fetched before the process here can be completed. Or have you ever seen it that Facebook automatically puts you in this thing before saying welcome? You understand it now? Like what happens is that yes, this one is running, that one is running. They are both running independently, but technically one is waiting for one to work. Now that's what await does for you. Async and await. So yes, it is asynchronous, but because you're using what async and await, it is making it behave in a synchronous manner, waiting for something to happen before another one happens. Do you understand it now? Now, that's why you have async and await. So yes, this thing is enough to turn your head. It's enough. And right now, I'm forced to like put the class here. It's like I said, laugh. That laugh is no, that laugh no ritual. So I'm tempted to like just end the class here, but I'm just let's just press for that. Let's end this. So now, but what I'm trying to say is that when you have async and await, you have asynchronous, you have synchronous. Synchronous is saying they run one after the other. Asynchronous is saying that they run independently. Now, this program here, these two programs here, where is it? A and B, they are actually running independently. Meaning that this one is running to authenticate, this one is checking to authenticate. But for the authentication to work, it needs to wait for this one to authenticate. Do you get it now? Now that is why, as an asynchronous program, it has to behave as a synchronous program, even for a moment, for it to work. Do you get it now? Now that's what async and await helps you do. Now, async and await is a more modern way of trying to build asynchronous functions or asynchronous applications, because you cannot just throw away synchronism. Synchronism is also very much important in JavaScript. JavaScript is a synchronous language, so it is very, very, if you're going to be writing with JavaScript, it's very important. So async and await helps you balance what synchronism and asynchronism, allows you to merge it together, even though it's also as an asynchronous function, allows you to introduce a little bit of what synchronism so that you can balance everything up. Now that's what asynchronism is. Now let us take this for example. And one more thing that you need to know is that it allows us reduce the use of .then and .catch, which is a very much important thing. .then and .catch is, to me, one of the most messy way of writing asynchronous functions. I don't like it because it does not make anything, doesn't really make it neat, doesn't make it cool, doesn't make it good at all. So I prefer to use async and await. So how do we use async and await? So first of all, you have your function. Now, the same thing I would teach you, we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to say const fetch data, right, equals to what? Then we're going to have the same thing here. Now, we're going to return a promise, a new promise, success and failure. Then we're going to have this, and yeah, there's a problem in my syntax again. So I'm going to put success and failure. Good. So now we're not going to have, okay, good, exactly. So we're going to have the set timeout here again, the same way. So I'm going to go ahead and put my set timeout. Now, the same way we've done. Now, the same way we did it here, right? We've done it, right? Now, that's the main function. Now, we need to call the function and make it asynchronous. So how exactly do we do it? First of all, we can use the .then method, saying, oh, fetch data, then .then and .catch. Makes it, of course, it works. But this is messy. What I can do right here is that instead of calling it this way, I can create another function. I can say const get data to get that particular data. Then I can now make it an asynchronous function by calling it async. Normally for you to use your for you to write your function, your normal function, how do you write it? You just go ahead and then you write const get data, right, equals to, then you have this and then your arrow function. You remember this, right? This is your data. This is your normal function. You remember this. I hope everybody understands this. You understand this? This particular function here. We've been writing it so far, but we don't understand it. Jesus Christ. Mr. I don't understand it. This way of writing functions. How do you write a function? Function gets data. I mean, let's do it. Function gets data. Now, do you understand this? You understand this one? Oh, you said you don't function. Okay. But do you understand it? Okay. Now, this is the normal way of writing functions, right? But there's also another way, which is much more modern. It's more modern than this one. In fact, not more modern. It's the modern way of writing functions, which is known as your arrow functions. So how do you write your arrow functions? Pretty much the same way, but instead of using function keyword, you now tie it to a variable. So I can say const get data, right, equals to what? Then I can have this, then arrow function. That's it. So this particular thing here is the same way of writing functions this way. Now, what this allows you to do is that, first of all, it is cleaner. Second of all, it kind of makes you, you're looking at it that you think it's not shorter. It is actually shorter when you now start writing multiple functions or multiple things inside of it. So it just makes everything much more cleaner. And again, it's the modern way of writing ES6 JavaScript functions. Do you get it now? So that's why I'm explaining arrow function, so that you not see it later when you're like trying to further, and then you're like, this man did not teach us this thing. You understand? But this is arrow function. Now, that's what it is. So you can go ahead and use this, or you can use any of those ones. Everything works. Now, but what I need you to know is that, yes, for you to now use your async function, you have to precede it in this particular parenthesis. I can now say async. Now, what I've just done is that I've changed this function from it being a synchronous function to what? To an asynchronous function right here now. You understand now? So right here now, whatever it is that I write in this particular function is not asynchronous. It runs independently of any other function out there. So now, the thing that I was doing with .then in this place, I cannot go ahead and what, easily do it in this asynchronous function, and then it also works. So I cannot go ahead and say, oh, const data, right, that I was saying in this place will now be equals to what? Fetch data. Now, what have I just done? I've now said, oh, since we have this fetch data that is here now, this is what we want to display, isn't it? Right? Now, since we want to display this particular data, we now need to what? Call it out in this place and make this particular fetch data an asynchronous data. Let me recap what I just said. So now, in this .then that is here, what exactly did you do to this fetch data? You called it out and made sure that this data fetch successfully works, isn't it? Now, for us to do the same thing here, we can now call this fetch data in this function, calling a function another function. But if you just say fetch data like this, right, it does not allow us to use it in its full potential. Do you get? So what we need to do is, first of all, what? Make it or store it to a variable. So I can say let data equals to what? Fetch data. So now whenever I now see data, I know that what I'm trying to call is what? Is that function. Do you get what we're trying to what? Write out that particular function. Then I can go ahead and so what? Console.log data. Simple. That's all. That's what you have to do. But now in this case now, we need to what? Use the await keyword in this place. And why are we awaiting it? We are waiting for this particular function to load up first. This is an asynchronous function. Waiting for it to load up first. So we can now go ahead and what? Fetch the data when it's fully loaded. Then we can go ahead and what? And okay. I think I need to stop here. I need to stop here. Nobody is answering me again. Everybody's just looking out. Jesus Christ, what is this guy doing? What's this? What's this? But if you check it out, just so you can check it out, you can see that you have what? You have your resolve is not defined. Oh, okay. So this is it. So it's supposed to be success. Okay. So data fetch successfully. But I'm not even going to ask if you understand. Nobody understands. I know. Do you understand it? A bit. Do you understand it? A bit is not understand. You don't understand it. If you understand it, okay, well, maybe you might have an idea. Good. You might have an idea of how it works. So, but I do not think anybody really understands async and await yet. So this is what's going to happen, right? Again, you have three ways of writing, of making everything functional. First way is what? Callbacks, promises, then async and await. Now, I've explained with examples, which I am very, very certain that we have issues with. So this is how it's going to work. We're going to do a project that is going to make you use all of these things. So no more I'm teaching and everybody's just trying to understand. Like, no, it is not like, oh, we are working, I'm working. You are working on your computer, everybody also working on your computer. We are going to get this. So what's going to happen now is that I'm going to stop this, then we're going to go into Firebase. So we're going to get started on that particular application that I told us to create. So now when we now get started with it, so we can now go ahead and start working on it. Hi, good afternoon. So I'm going to give us time to write this so that we can come back and just get started with Firebase, and then we can understand this better. Good afternoon, ma'am. Thank God